And we're now moving on to the final session and some good presentations. And we're very glad to have an insight from Yara, looking at market insights in Europe. And our speaker is Sigurd Engevik Jorgensen, who is market manager for Yara and has global product manager responsibilities. He's worked in previous roles for Shell in Oslo and London, and he served there as group director, vice president, and managing director roles from 2006 to 2013. He's been involved in some innovations with the Yara AdBlue business, and I guess that involved taking a view of the future and looking at what's driving the AdBlue business. So, as a market leader, one of the market leaders certainly in Europe, it's good to hear from you as to what you think the future holds. So, especially in terms of the light duty issues which we have been discussing today. So good. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Tim.
Over to you.
I think it's only proper after your start of the day with a metaphor, only proper to start by giving thanks.
Yes, indeed.
Thanks for giving me this opportunity to address your congregation of AdBlue worshippers. High priest, or is it Bishop Tim Jane?
Oh, no, not me.
Thanks also for giving me the after lunch slot.
We only put the best in this position. Yeah.
So it shall fall upon me to keep the congregation awake. So I have decided to sing. No, don't worry. I have decided to sing from the same hymn sheet as Oriol did earlier today, and I think you'll also recognize some of the messages from Tim's introduction. Do I have a remote here somewhere?
Oh, there's a good question. We seem to be missing the clicker. Oh, there it is. I'll get it.
Cheers. I think enough with the metaphors. Just the one slide about who I'm here speaking for. Yara is the world's largest AdBlue producer. We have the most ambitious vision and mission statements I have ever come across in my life and business. We are here to responsibly feed the world and protect the planet. And can there be a more worthy mission, I wonder? Our businesses are basically crop nutrition and industrial and environmental solutions, and you can see how that fits with the business we're here to talk about today. We have 5 AdBlue primary production plants across the world, 4 of which are in Europe. And you may remember from some earlier sessions that there are 14 primary production plants for AdBlue in Europe, 4 of which are ours. We have, more importantly, I think, we have more than 40 terminals and local sourcing points across the world, which is, for us, a critical success factor for gaining the position as a market leader. The company is old. It was founded more than 100 years ago, and it was, would you have it, it was founded then to solve the food crisis at the beginning of the last century. So there is a clear leitmotif to our presence and our role in business. Enough about Yara. What I'm going to talk about is question number 1. Is diesel dying on its feet? Number 2, the trade-off between local air quality and climate change, is that mutually exclusive, and is it necessarily a trade-off? And 3, and this goes back to Oriol, who was talking about commitment. Are we committed to a strategic fluid or to a horse which is dying? And these are the 3 questions I'd like to discuss with you guys here today. And before I start, I'm going to give you a collective insult to your intelligence, I'm sure, because I'm going to distinguish between the 2 types of emissions to air. And you know this, I know. But I said I'm going to try to keep you awake and so I may have to try to use insult to do that. Well, the one is global climate. That's all to do with CO2, the Paris Accord, what everybody's concerned about. This is the mother of all environmental issues. And the second one is local air quality, and they need to be distinguished. And I know you all know that. But go home and ask your friends, ask your family. Do they know it? No, they don't. They confuse this entirely. And that's why we need to not confuse it when we message why there's a future for AdBlue. So is diesel dying on its feet? Well, it's certainly looking like it, isn't it? Because diesel has become the ugly face of air pollution, of all air pollution. Diesel is the ugly face. There's a never-ending stream of negative headlines. The journalists bask in this. The local legislators, the mayors, are taking over as the legislation drivers. The EU Commission are doing good work. They are passing effective legislation which produces cars which are the lowest emitting cars ever. And we see it now. But the mayors, meanwhile, are passing city driving restrictions, and they're not distinguishing at all, necessarily, in their messaging, between whether it's an old, bad, polluting diesel or whether it's a new. And that's important. It's important to make that distinction. And the car makers, they go on the record saying, we'll stop doing diesel. They talk about their electric vehicles, and they'll talk about how they're going to stop making diesels. Not insignificant tiny car makers. Toyota used to be the second in the world. Volvo, famous car maker. Nissan, FCA. They're all exiting diesel, and they're going public with it. Not helping. And what do the car buyers do in response to all this? This is from LMC Automotive. This is the latest up to April 2018 stat. And the stat starts in April 2014, and you can see it. The diesel share of new car sales used to be in the 50s in terms of percent. Yeah? And it's now in the 30s. And I know Tim said that it's probably going to be landing at around 40 across Europe this year. I don't know. It could be even dropping even further. You know, look at the stats and look at the headlines around you, and you should be worried. Meanwhile, electrification. Grabbing all the headlines, isn't it? So battery electric vehicles, they are the pretty face of sustainability. Do you know where this picture is from? Again, trying to keep you awake, trying to engage with you. Do you know where this picture is from? Can you recognize the cars on the picture? That's a clue. They're Teslas. There's a small Nissan Leaf there as well, but the cars are universally Teslas. This picture is from my hometown. It's called Oslo, Norway. It's full of Teslas. It's the most boring country in the world to go and watch cars because they're all Teslas. .50% of new car sales in December 2017 were battery electric vehicles or plug-ins. 50%. And it's because the government gives them away. Yeah, Norway, apart from Denmark, is the highest car taxation country in the world. You wouldn't believe the taxes we pay to get a Ford Mondeo, standard, basic, run-of-the-mill car. To get a Tesla, we pay no taxes. We don't pay VAT. We don't pay toll. We don't pay the ferries. Norway is a country full of fjords and etc. There's no payment. They chuck these cars at you. And they're expensive pieces of kit. So I come from a country where I should know what I'm talking about. It's important also to make another distinction between battery electric vehicles and electrified vehicles, because the car makers will have you confused. They'll talk about electrified, and what they will mean by that is hybrids. Yeah. Look, this is coming, you won't be able to read this as a small graph, but what it says is the battery electric car sales from January to April so far this year, and the 2 previous years. And the countries are France, Germany, UK, Italy, and Spain, the 5 biggest car markets in Europe. I think they constitute for, they do up 80%, 80% of the total car market in Europe. These are the big 5. If you were able to read the denominations on the left-hand side of the graph, you would be able to see that none of them, apart from France, are beyond 1% of new car sales of battery electric vehicles. And you will see that the average of the new car sales is less than 0.8% of new car sales. Okay? So they will have you talk about electrified vehicles instead, because the stats on that is a little bit better, and they have more cars to choose from. And electrified vehicles, well, that's a hell of a lot of cars, because they're as long as there's a mild hybrid in there somewhere, you can call it electrified, and you can make the statement that we will go only electrified vehicles beyond 2021. After 2021, Volvo will only do electrified vehicles. What they do not tell you is that more than 90% of their cars will have an internal combustion engine, helped by some electricity. Battery electric vehicles constitute less than 1% of sales, and they dropped in France and UK so far this year. Dropped. They went down. So electrified or not, the reports of the death of the internal combustion engine, I believe, has been greatly exaggerated. And think about this. If 6% of all European car sales are so-called electrified, and less than 1% is pure battery, you do the math. That means 99% of the vehicles being sold in Europe today are internal combustion engines, still. And what all this produces, because 99% are internal combustion engines and people are fleeing, running away from diesel, what is happening now is that CO2 from new cars is increasing. It's going the other way of Paris. We are digging a big hole underneath ourselves. If we believe CO2 is the mother of all environmental concerns, we should stop buying gasoline cars and go back to the diesels. Because if diesel is dropping, what's climbing? Do you see the green line there? That's alternative fuel vehicles. That includes CNG, LNG, hybrids, and battery electric, everything. Do you see how deceptively flat that line is? And do you see how steep the red line is? That represents gasoline. Because if diesel is dropping, the green line is not increasing accordingly. The red line is increasing. So we get gasoline cars instead. So diesel demonization is actually acting against its own interest. The ugly face of air pollution, the ugly face of pollution really, has become diesel. And it's undermining what we're all after. And not only this congregation, not only us, the worshippers of AdBlue, but also the rest of the world, who are trying to prevent the temperature from increasing by 2 degrees. So therefore, the logical question to ask is AdBlue for passenger cars all over before it really started? LMC Automotive have said that they think the diesel share of new car sales will drop from the high 50s to 15. And yes, you heard me right. Not 50 to 50, 50 to 15. 15% in 2031. That's what they say. However, as has been said in this forum over these 3 days, the SCR share of the diesel cars that are being sold is increasing. I have made a very conservative assumption. I think I have it from you, Tim. 75% SCR penetration. I think that's very conservative, if you ask. 23 of the 25 top marks. I looked it up. Yeah, last year the top 25 car brands in Europe. The 25 top brands, sales-wise, of them, 23, I'm certain, have adopted SCR. 2, I'm in doubt. I couldn't find any SCR, but they may have. It's Mini, a brand you may have heard of, and some other obscure small brand. So look at this graph. That shows you that trend line of diesel percentage share dropping dramatically from 50 to 15. But the bars, you will see showing growth. And this is literally mimicking what Tim showed us earlier. This is the SCR, absolute sales of SCR cars in the next years going up to 2031 forecasts. And what does that do for volumes? Well, the light vehicle SCR fleet will be significant. We believe that it's going to be in the high 60s, 60 millions of cars in 2031. Okay? And we've been through the consumption before. You know it. You can time that by 2, 2.5, 3, whatever. And you get the total market size. So that's not a small market, is it? So the answer then to the question, is AdBlue for passenger cars all over before it really started? What's the answer? Quiz time again. Correct. Still awake. The Euro 6 diesel drivetrain cleaned with AdBlue deals therefore with both the challenges, the air quality and the global climate. Now, we've had challenges, real challenges, which is probably why all the cheating went on for so many years. Challenges with cold start performance, challenges with deposits, and challenges with after-treatment costs. But of late, you have seen, and Oriol showed us the quote from Bosch earlier today. We have the AECC who are promoting now and coming on stream, going public with all their successes of their members, the catalyst producers. They are ambitious. They are confident that they can do the job. And we have people like the Loughborough University with their innovation, the ACCT, which is, you know, this tremendous light at the end of the tunnel of how it is entirely possible to deal with a cold start situation in a low-cost way. And I know they're speaking next door later on today, and you should all go there because if ever you wanted to gain some hope, this one is fantastic. So it works. Even Greenpeace, lo and behold, Greenpeace have made a report where they document the NOx emissions from Euro 6D temp cars, and they document cars emissions down to less than 10 milligrams per kilometer. Yes, in that document you have cars, and they all happen to be with SCR, by the way. So we agree. The automakers need the diesel drivetrain to achieve the ambitious CO2 targets after 2020, and the sustainable solution is AdBlue. And Oriol was looking for quotes, he was appealing to the automakers that they have to go on record now. Stop sticking your head in the sand and get out of the closet and say, yes, we believe in diesel. It does have a future. And they are starting gradually to do it. Daimler said, diesel has undisputed CO2 advantage over gasoline engines. Vehicles with the new generation of engines, Euro 6 temp certification, record emissions that are in many cases under, and in some cases significantly under, the laboratory threshold value of 80 milligrams, blah, blah, blah. Once the knowledge that diesel are eco-friendly firms up in people's minds, then for me, there's no reason not to buy one, said the CEO of Volkswagen in March. Since then, he's been replaced, but it's still a good statement, I thought. So this is our messaging. Knowing that AdBlue fixes the NOx emissions, the automakers can focus on driving down CO2 and continue their innovative journey towards truly zero-emission vehicles. Note the word truly. Yara believes that the diesel drivetrain cleaned with AdBlue is currently the most efficient, lowest emission bridge to truly zero-emission vehicles. That's us. So, the answer to the question, is diesel dying on its feet? No, not at all. Are these air quality, climate change, is that trade-off mutually exclusive? No, not. So then, back to Oriole. Commitment, investment, long-term. This is Yara. You recognize those bold statements? And this is our performance. In the last 4 years, our volume of AdBlue doubled in the space of 4 years. Yes, it doubled from 1 million tons to 2 million tons. We just inaugurated the Brunsbüttel plant in Germany, where the annual AdBlue capacity exceeds 1.1 million tons. That's enough. That's enough AdBlue to abate all road transport related NOx emissions in Germany, Austria, and Switzerland combined. At Yara, we act and we invest to achieve our mission. Mission up at the left-hand corner, protecting the planet. We act and invest to do that. We walk the talk. We won't do it overnight. We won't do it alone. We need all of you to play the part, but we are certainly ready to play ours. And by the way, without AdBlue, Europe would grind to a halt. We would not be having water on the table in front of us if we went dry of AdBlue. AdBlue is becoming as a strategic fluid as diesel. On Monday, I read a report from the AA. AA is a rescue organization, car owners organization in the UK. It's like ADAC in Germany. 23,000 rescue calls, rescue operations were made by the AA last year in 2017. 23,000 just related to problems due to AdBlue. The car had run dry of AdBlue in 23,000 cases. Would you have it? I'm not saying all of them were running dry, but they were AdBlue related. That's what the AA recorded. So if you ever thought that you were doing anything unimportant or not so important after all, well, there you have the evidence. Without AdBlue, the world would grind, Europe would grind to a halt. Not only for our passenger cars, but also for all the freight vehicles that have been supplying the shops and the hotels and etc. So making a summary then, is diesel dying on its feet? I don't think so. The automakers need the diesel drivetrain to achieve the ambitious CO2 targets after 2020. We, the world, need the diesel to achieve those CO2 targets. The electric vehicles will not do it, not for a very long time. We need the diesel. Is there a mutual exclusivity between local air quality? No. Diesel emits less NOx. We can treat the diesel, and voila, you have it. So, investing in AdBlue, is that a long-term commitment to a strategic fluid or a dying horse? It's the former. Even if the diesel demonization were to continue, millions of new light vehicle diesels will be sold every year the next decade. The vast majority will be equipped with SCR and require AdBlue. And now, just to end off, I have a small movie. If the AdBlue God is with me, and it works, I'll show you a small movie from the inauguration of the opening of our plant in Brunsbüttel.
The DEF market is basically growing in every segment you will imagine having a diesel cylinder. Any diesel cylinder in Europe and US, its NOx emission needs to be treated. And the best way to treat it, there is no other alternative, is to go through the SCR technology that will require AdBlue. AdBlue is the key reagent for the SCR technology. It's also known as DEF, diesel exhaust fluid, in North America.
Having a new and upgraded facility here at Brunsbüttel will facilitate and support that ever-increasing demand, not only from the point of view of capacity, but also in terms of safety and security of supply.
For Shell, it's great news to see that our partner Yara invests significantly in AdBlue and further strengthen the AdBlue supply in Europe.
From a supply chain perspective, it was very important to create this facility.
The AdBlue facility here in Brunsbüttel has a very high capacity with its tank of 17,500 cubic meters. The total capacity can add up as much as 1.1 million tons per year.
Well, the loading facility for the deep sea vessels has this advantage that we can also load different grades. Whether the customer wants 50% solution or 32.5% solution, we can do the inline blending while we are loading the vessels.
The Yara Brunsbüttel facility will mean more DEF for us in North America, greater supply, greater stability and reliability of supply.
For the truck loading, it's a fully digitalized loading facility where you can do the training, the registration and everything 24/7. The customer can get whatever concentration they would like, whatever volume, at whatever time.
We consider Yara a strategic partner of ours in North America. We collaborate on both supply and demand challenges that we face, and we are growing our businesses together.
We see the opening of the production facility at Yara Brunsbüttel as a lighthouse to secure supply security.
This project contributes to the mission and the vision of Yara because we want to protect the planet. And the AdBlue product is exactly doing that. With the 1 million tons of AdBlue that we can produce out of this facility, we will reduce the NOx emissions into the air. That's a great achievement.
That's it. Thank you.